Well, yesterday was definitely a busy day, but well worth it at the same time. We've got lots and lots of work done. Everything's looking that bit tidier now. So now today we can go back to getting bits and bobs planted. And what we're looking at today are pole beans or French beans. Basically plants that you just put at the bottom of canes, and you don't need netting or anything like that because they wind themselves around those canes until they get to the top. Then they flower and then they grow you nice long slim French beans. And we've already got a pack ready to go. And these we're going to put outside in an area that I've just dug over, and we're going to add a bit of fertiliser to it, and then we're going to make a wigwam out of canes, which is really easy to do. And the best way to do that is to put your canes in at an angle, and then you can pull them together at the top and then just put a tie wrap around it, because that's going to be a lot more secure than string. And then all we need to do is plant these beans around base, and we'll put 2 or 3 per cane, so we can get quite a lot of beans growing up that structure, and then it's going to fill with produce. The only thing we have to be wary of is frosts. Hopefully we won't get any, but we can pop a bit of fleece over the top if we do get a frost warning. But other than that, slugs love these plants, and if they get on them you'll just end up with little stems sticking out of the soil. They'll eat all leaves, so that's something else we have to be careful about as well. Until they become established, we might just put some kind of a netting over the top to try and reduce the chances of that damage. We've also got some of these as well. They're also French beans, but they're dwarf ones and they're called slenderette. So we're going to do some of those as well today, but these we're going to put in a container because they only grow to 2 foot in height, and obviously we can protect these a lot better. But we'll start with these ones. I've already dug the ground over in preparation, so we're going to add some feed and then we'll get some of these plants put in, but not before we put that wigwam together. Just before we get started today, I just want to say thank you to a couple of people that's donated to the channel, and they are Laura Jones, Sherry Harrison and Kevin Jarman. It's very generous of you to make those donations, and you know it's going to go straight back into the channel to pay towards seeds and compost. So thank you very much for that. It's really appreciated. So we'll do this quickly. It's quite windy today, so apologies for the noise. And I'm just going to sprinkle this feed around base at each of these canes. So we've basically put these in, shoved them into ground, but we put them in at a little bit of an angle, so they're leaning towards each other, like that, and just push them in so they're nice and secure. And then we can just bunch the top together and put a tie wrap around it. And now we've got a wigwam, so all we need to do is plant these plants around the bottoms of those canes. I'm just going to use a dibber to make an hole, and then we're going to take out the biggest plants that we've got. As always, we free that root system off, and then we'll pop them in like that. Really close to that cane, and then we'll go there and then there. So we're planting him in a triangle around the base of that cane. And that's all we need to do. So loosen roots in that hole up to that cane. If you wanted to, you could plant more around the base, but I find that 3 is enough for me. So, very quick, easy job to do. But when we're getting those fresh, homegrown French beans, we'll be glad that we did it. And that's that done. And just behind me we've got these peas growing. So since they're getting a bit of length to them now, we're going to have to start and put some netting on here to keep them off the ground. So we'll get a bit of net at some point today and put it all the way along this bottom. Otherwise these are susceptible to damage from slugs once again. That's that sorted out. We've built his wigwam. It's secured with that tyre wrap at top, so that's not going to break. And we've got all his beans in bottom. And there's 12 plants altogether to grow up these poles. So all we need to do now is find a bit of netting and offer some protection before we go in tonight and try and keep those slugs away. That were a quick and easy job to do. And we've got us full size French bean plants on the way now. Just 4 canes tie wrapped together at the top to form that wigwam. And then we've put 3 plants along the bottoms of each cane. So 12 plants in all, which will produce quite a few more beans than you think. Because they are cobra ones, so they're quite high yielding. And we've got a few left, which is a good thing. Because if any slugs do attack those plants, the first thing they'll do is eat away these top leaves and just leave us with those stems. And there's a very good chance that they're not going to grow back after that. So we'll keep these and we'll grow them on in here. And if we do need to replace any at any point, we know we've already got some. Meanwhile, we've got these slenderette, and these are the dwarf bush varieties. And the good thing about doing both is we can plant these in a container. These plants only grow to 2 feet high, and they can be ready to harvest beans from in 60 days. So while those out there are working their way towards the tops of those canes and starting to flower, we can be taking mini harvests from little plants like these. So we're going to find a container, we're going to give them a structure to grow up, and we'll plant ourselves some slenderette bush beans as well. So for these dwarf French beans, I'm going to use one of these homemade containers. We made quite a lot of these a couple of years ago out of 3 pallets, and they've been very good planters, and they're not too big to move around if you need to. So we've popped some compost into this, and like we did with the full size ones, we'll then amend it with fertiliser. And I'm using bone meal as well, but you can use fish blood and bone. So just a few inches from top, we've added that fertiliser, and then we'll just top it back up. Of course now they need some kind of a structure to grow up. Obviously not everybody is going to have containers like this, but you could use something like that. Remember that only dwarf varieties, so the root growth requirements are going to be a lot less than your full size ones. So if you've got containers like this or square tubs that you can drill holes in bottom, you can try those. We're going to make structure with these canes, and we know that these plants only grow to about 2 feet, so that's going to be plenty long enough. I'm just going to put them in at an angle and create a miniature version of what we've just done outside. And then we'll just gather them together at top, put a tyre wrap round. And that's pretty stable. So we're going to do the same thing with these plants. We're going to put 3 around bottom of each. We've got plenty to go around. And you can see that these plants now started to get that second set of growth, which is those little leaves there. And we've got no problems with roots. So all we need to do is make a nice deep hole, push them in. Don't bury them any deeper than they were in that pack. So we'll pop another one in there as well, and a quick cover over. So it is, once again, a very simple job to do, and we're getting a lot of plants in this little container. And that one's another really good example. Those are the first leaves that came out at the bottom, and since then it's produced this extra growth. So that's a plant well on its way. And I've also got one that we've been growing on in this plant pot, so we might as well get this one out. If I take a bit of that compost away from bottom, you can see it's got a lot of roots, this one already. So we'll definitely get that one in as well. Just one more, and that's this container all set up. So a very quick, easy job to do. And once again, in a small space, we've got 12 plants growing up this structure. But because we've grown some dwarf varieties, it means that whether you've got a big garden or an allotment, or even just a balcony for growing on, you can still grow yourself some really nice fresh French beans if you get the right variety and provide them with just a little container like that. So we'll get these watered in and we'll leave them in this greenhouse because, as we've said before, running beans and French beans are not cold hardy. We can put fleece over those ones outside if we need to, in case there's a frost. And we will protect them with a bit of netting from slugs at the same time. And hopefully, over the next few weeks, they'll be at least halfway up those canes and starting to produce flowers, which is going to make us beans. But in between now and then, we know we've got these that we can rely on because they're going to be raised off the ground on benches and they're away from any of the harsher weather like frosts and winds. So these are going to grow quite happily inside here. And in just 60 days time, we could be taking as first harvest our own grown French beans of 2023, knowing that a little bit later on we're going to have bags of them from that wigwam that we've created outside. So I'll get these watered in and then I'll take a look at what other jobs I need to get done, because there's always something at this time of year. And if you're interested in seeing what they might be, please hit that subscribe button and press that notifications bell. And we look forward to seeing you at next one. Take care.